I've been going through congressional records to see what bills people are passing, and I'm going to show you some of the bills that are going through Congress. There's a lot of people that are trying to legalize illegal aliens, or they're trying to spend money on pet programs, and the list goes on. So we're going to look at this first one. It's by Sherrod Brown. It's called the Butch-Lewis Act of 2019. It says that they want to create a pension rehabilitation trust fund. Basically, what this bill does is if you work for a company and they squandered your money and like what happened with Enron, the government would bail it out. That's basically what it is. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. There's going to be some weird stuff in here. This is Environmental Justice Act by Cory Booker. Let's see what he says. Okay, what Cory Booker is doing in this, look up the word color, populations of color. Cory Booker wants environmental justice based on race. It says right over here, populations of color, communities of color, indigenous communities, and low income communities. He's claiming that there's disproportionate environmental, human, and health impacts on those populations of people on based on your race, excluding white people. So he's saying we need to have more environmental protection for non-whites is basically what it is, and people that aren't wealthy. And I would argue that this guy's a racist. I mean, why don't we have environmental protection for everybody? He claims that this is environmental justice. It's clearly not. It's racism. American business for American companies. Okay, this is Richard Durbin. Basically, what it's doing is if a company used to be an American company and they left, he's forbidding the federal government, prohibiting the federal government from doing business with them. So, for example, Burger King used to be an American company, but they moved to Canada. So, this would prohibit the federal government from doing business with them. It's a protectionist law. I don't agree with these types of things. This is the important part. This this is a crazy law, and I disagree with this. It's called Stop Cruelty to Migrant Children Act by Jeff Merkley. The problem with this, I had it highlighted. If you go, okay, here it is. It's supposed to protect children that are in detention centers. You know, it's supposed to do things like providing them with access to their parents, being nice to them, and all that stuff. That's stuff that they're already doing. But what he's saying here is that um, an alien shall not be detained. He's making exemptions so that a child cannot be detained. A pregnant woman, a person with physical or mental illness cannot be detained. Disability cannot be detained. Elderly cannot be detained. Pregnant or breastfeeding cannot be detained. Under the age of 18 cannot be detained. A primary caregiver of a child or infirm person cannot be detained, or if the detention is not in the public interest. This pretty much rules out everybody. I mean, all you have to do is say that everyone there is that the detention is not in the public interest, and you cannot hold any illegal immigrants. This is an amnesty law, is what it is. This is Jeff Merkley. So it says stop cruelty to migrant children, but really it's an amnesty law, which makes it so that you can't detain anybody. Bahamas Temporary Protected Status Act. This is another amnesty law by Robert Menendez. Basically, what it says is that I guess there was a hurricane in the Bahamas, so anyone from the Bahamas that's in the U.S. illegally can stay. It's an amnesty. This is Prohibit Imposition of the Death Penalty by Richard Durbin. It's very short and it says no death penalty. This one is Fair Proceedings Act by Kirsten Gillibrand, who's running for president, to provide counsel for children. This is basically to give money to make it so that children, again, cannot be detained, to provide them with lawyers, it says here, to inform them on basic procedures of immigration hearings. It's about access to legal orientation programs. report on access to counsel. So this means giving them legal representation, which maybe they don't have. I guess not. What does it say here? The filing of such motion shall stay the removal of the alien. Okay, so it's basically at no government expense. It's a law giving legal protection to minors that are in the country illegally, and of course other vulnerable populations. Okay, this is End Racial and Religious Profiling Act by Benjamin Cardin. This is a garbage law. Basically what it says is if you're a police officer, it used to be intent, means, motivation, and opportunity. They're removing the motivation part. They're saying that if the police officer accidentally or without meaning to has an impact on an individual, then he's guilty. So intent no longer matters. It says right here, a disparate impact, which means that it's not the same as everyone else, on individuals with a particular characteristic, which he's talking about race and religion, which is, of course, Muslims. He's not doing this for Christians. Constitute evidence of violation. Okay? Impact is the key word. It used to be your intention, means, motivation, and opportunity. Your intention makes you guilty. You want to commit the crime. What he's saying is that if you didn't intend to do it, but they decide that it's disparate, well, then you're guilty. So you got to be careful what you do. So the problem is it's already disparate. All police action is disparate. There's different groups that are affected differently. You got white collar crime, you got blue collar crime. They all affect people differently. Like women bounce checks. That's one of the crimes that they do. So basically what it would say is that if you catch a woman bouncing a check and it's disparate, which means men don't, it goes by impact, doesn't go by intention. They say, there's people that say that intent is no longer being part of the law. Basically, what's going to happen is people are going to accidentally be found guilty. We don't want stuff like this. Okay, this is Social Security Caregiver Credit Act by Christopher Murphy. Basically, what it says is that they're providing 5 years worth of wages to people who care for someone else who's on public benefits. So if someone's in a wheelchair, they get a certain amount of money that's for their food or their rent. And this act is giving money also to the person who takes care of them, if someone's taking care of them, for up to 5 years. My aunt said that she was not eligible for some sort of Social Security because she had to take care of my grandmother who was on Social Security because she was caring for my grandmother. So once my grandmother died, then my aunt was eligible. My aunt was not working at the time. I don't remember the whole story, but so that's a situation. That's what this is doing. And we know, they say Social Security is going to go bankrupt, but I guess this guy doesn't mind spending more of your money. So this is Patrick Leahy, Freedom for Americans to Travel to Cuba. That's basically what it is. Americans are already free to travel to Cuba. So this is a stupid act. It's illegal to spend money in Cuba beyond like $180 a day. You can spend money for food and for your hotel, but you cannot spend money that promotes business activities in Cuba or the government. So this is already BS. You can already go. In fact, it already says over here. Okay, so this is a stupid law. You can already travel between the United States and Cuba. This is Protect American Values Act. This is complete garbage. This is Mazie, Hirono. This is a fake law. You see what it says here? Inadmissibility on public charge grounds. This is an amnesty law. Makes all illegal aliens legally able to enter the country. It says Protect American Values Act because it's an American value to allow for the government to provide for all foreigners that are here illegally. Now you've got public charge. Public charge means a public expense. That means the government's paying for it. Inadmissibility means not allowed to enter the country. You see, it says Department of Homeland Security. So basically, what it says, there's people that are not allowed to enter the country because they can't provide for themselves. You know, when any country I have ever traveled to, you have to have proof that you've got money in your bank account to pay for your hotel and for your food for the time period that you're there. It's a law that every country has. Even if you're an American, you have to follow that law when you go to a foreign country. She's saying that you don't have to, that foreigners don't, I don't know if it's a woman, that foreigners cannot be denied entry into the United States if they have absolutely no money, which means that the federal government has to pay for them to live here. The federal government is responsible if a foreigner comes here to pay for where they live, their food, etc. If you sponsor someone to become an American citizen, you have to sponsor them for $250,000. That means if that person overstays their visa, you have to pay the government $250,000 to provide for them for the remainder of their life. So this is an amnesty program. Okay, so I was looking for Bernie Sanders stuff. I did the search wrong and I got all this other stuff by mistake, but it's just showing you some of the things that that your congressmen are working on. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.